Welcome to Milking the Franchise. My name is Tanner.
And I'm Chris.
This is the podcast where we watch movies. And that's
that.
End of
and
story.
That's it. Specifically, we like to watch movies within one film franchise and talk about each one at a time. And then also kind of spend some time exploring the other stuff that goes along with those film franchises. The books, the
milk,
the what have you. Yes.
Yeah, all the IP. And Chris, I want to ask you something. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I thought you were going to tell me that you knew what I did last summer. But yeah, I'm doing good. We have a little break coming up from my job. I have next week off. And I'm kind of excited for some downtime, just to kind of hang out and read and watch more of these movies. It's going to be a good time.
Nice.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. I did some more cat vet stuff today and yesterday. Some unfortunate mishaps. Well, tooth pullings, that kind of stuff. So lots of fun. But besides that, I'm pretty good. Ready to talk about spooky season. What's that?
I have a good cat denture guy if you need him.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing. Can you send me his pager number?
Without a doubt. Yeah, I'll get that over to you right away.
Awesome. My friend's dad growing up, he made dentures. That was his job. I just thought that was interesting. Yeah, he just had this little room, this little hut that he just made dentures in for like 30, 40 years. And made a lot of money. Yeah.
Is that still a job? I guess somebody has to do that, right?
Someone's got to make them. You'd think that it'd be like a big corporation or a big company, but he was just some guy. It was like a welding shop almost, but not welding, but it was just a little like workbench where he made dentures. Yeah.
Did he go out and like find the teeth? Was that part of his thing?
I feel like
we just made up the plot for a horror movie better than the one we just watched.
Yeah, The Denturist.
The Denturist.
Yeah, he also wore a slicker raincoat and a fisherman's hat.
Yeah, the slicker. You're the one with
slicker.
The slicker. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer this week. It's the beginning of October, the beginning of spooky season.
Of all the months, it's one of the spookiest. So we're watching the horror.
We forgot to do the spooky moo at the top. We had planned it. We'd gone over it. We'd rehearsed it over and over and over all week.
We do. Yeah, little peek behind the curtain. We do dozens of dress rehearsals for this show every week to make sure every part is right where it belongs. And
this is all scripted.
We let that slip this week. So apologies to our regular listener, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin. We record it live, like random off the cuff, and then we dictate all the words, and then we read the script word for word. So I'm reading this right now. Yeah. So hopefully it feels natural.
I mean, with a process that involved, how could it not?
I would like to see that. That'd be fun. Sounds like an improv thing to do.
Yeah.
One day. But yeah, this podcast here, we
none of that was true.
Oh,
anyway, continue.
Come on. It can be.
It can be one day.
One day it'll be true. So yeah, we do surveys on this pod. And it might sound boring. You're like, I don't want to take a survey or take a test. I hate tests. Mom, I'm sick. The dog ate my test. but they're actually really fun, and it's meant to be fun and funny, and we make jokes about the movie, and kind of like we hook onto pun intended, hook onto certain themes um, throughout the movie and try to like exploit them for laughs. And yeah,
Come play along.
That's what it's all about. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's meant to get people involved. Our Bad Movie crew seems to enjoy it, so we're trying to bring it to the masses, all 9 of you.
Mhm.
And again, shout out to Reddit, the Highlander Reddit, because last week we finished our fifth and final Highlander movie. Shout out to them for filling out the survey, and we had a little chatter this week on there about The Source. Nobody likes it, which is Highlander The Source.
Does not surprise me. Yeah.
Right, I know. Yeah, do you want to say anything about Highlander? You ready to get into the survey, wrap it up?
Yeah, I think I'm ready to get in. The Source. It does not surprise me that the subreddit was not a fan. It really feels like the final nail in the coffin. It was everything. Oh yeah, just such boring plotting, just such bad
Ugly
cinematography, just not fun to watch. And yeah, I am ready to be moving on, and excited to start talking different franchise with you. Any last thoughts from you?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, I love Highlander 1. The rest, we can talk. The Source, though, is really bad. And you're right, nail in the coffin. But the good part about a terrible movie like that is it creates a fun survey to read. So let's get into that from last week before we move into the new movie. So let's start. We always start with the favorite line of the movie. We've got so there's a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo in this movie, and this is our favorite line here. Orbital wobble. This is outside the laws of celestial mechanics.
Just nonsense. Straight up nonsense. Yeah.
Close second is "Do It, You Immortal Fuck." One of the great final lines of the movie.
Oh, such a jarring use of the F word too, just for no reason.
You immortal fuck. Yeah, he really emphasized that F.
Yeah.
Then we asked you the dumbest part of Highlander: The Source. The number one answer: the sped up, glitchy fight scenes and special effects.
Yeah.
Yep. Some other examples here or options here were let's see, I'll read them in order. Using unexplainable mystical things like the Elder, the Guardian, and the Source. And then the color saturation was third in line, which if you've seen the movie, but if you haven't, every scene is like either saturated fully blue, fully green, completely red. It makes no sense.
All white purgatory scene at the end too.
It's very ugly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, the music was really bad as well. That leads us to the next question. Yeah. The best version of so there was a cover from the original movie of Queen's Princes of the Universe by John Sloman. So we asked you what was the best version, and overwhelming support for Queen. Somebody here, some jokester, some prankster voted for John Sloman.
What a jokester and a prankster.
I mean, maybe they're serious, but
maybe it's actually John Sloman. What if he's on the subreddit and
I could see that. He's the one keeping the Highlander subreddit alive, trying to get his name out there.
Maybe that's
promote his music. Yeah, every 5 days there's a Source post.
Well, shouts out John Sloman.
Hello, John.
Did it better.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, John. Next question we got: are there immortal children? So we were wondering. This is kind of there's no definitive answer, I guess, but I was kind of wondering if, these immortals, if they die violently, they can turn into an immortal. So I was wondering, are there like babies out there or like toddlers who died in a car wreck and became immortal that like their immortalism ignited and then they're just stuck as like
little babies. Yeah.
Forever.
Also,
people say yes.
Duncan MacLeod had a baby at the end of this movie as a full-on immortal. So is that baby going to be immortal?
But was he mortal now? I don't know.
I don't know. This is why we need Source 2, Tanner.
Oh, please no. Let's never answer that. Some questions don't need to be answered.
Yeah, this is fair.
All right, next question. Why don't more immortals wear neck cones? So Highlander features the one of the rules of the Highlander franchise is that you have to cut off someone's head to actually kill them, an immortal's head. And this guy has a giant neck cone to cover his neck. Genius. So why don't they wear more? They chafe and went out of fashion, according to Hans Kirschner in the book An Evening at Joe's.
Whoa.
Hans Kirschner, okay. In parentheses, F. Braun McAsh. I'm sure that's a great reference that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the book or either of the two names that are dropped in there. So I'm impressed. That's probably true.
I love it. So let's see. Not convenient for everyday life, sure. Because they don't want to walk around looking like injured dogs.
Okay.
Because they look really, really stupid and they aren't that helpful. How did the Guardian even see anything? That's a good point. But you don't need one that goes over your eyes like him either. It was a little excessive. We got slaves to fashion.
Okay.
Didn't match the fashion of any later century. So a lot of fashion stuff, fashion sense mostly.
I can see fans of the Highlander franchise being pretty into fashion.
Yeah. Sure. I believe it. And then they want to die.
Ooh.
Because
Death Wish.
Yeah, I mean the immortals, like, it's a tough life. And maybe they just secretly they want to like have that out at some point. Who knows? Next question. What would be your more encrypted version of the password there can only be one? We got a lot of versions of there can only be one, exclamation point, blah, 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 and then, 2C, how would you, 2C4NB01. I guess that's supposed to be there can only be one.
And there we go. Yep. Replace the A with a 4.
And then it's there can be only one, not there can only be one. LOL. Oh, I screwed that up. Whoops.
Oh, we typoed. Yeah, we did a typo. That's a whoopsie.
There can be only one. Oh. Uh-oh.
God, Reddit got us.
That's why we can't go to that subreddit. They know too much about it.
Well, we should have known that one in their defense. Yeah.
There can be only one. Oh, they're right. Dang it. All for one and one for all. Kind of magic. There can only be fans. There can be only fans.
Nice. I like that.
And then immortal fuck. And then there can only be one, which all the words are spelled in a different style.
But it works phonetically.
It works phonetically. Yeah. Can is spelled like the place in France. All right. This movie had songs from the bands Spot, 40 Store, and 7 Day Story. Come up with your own 2000s metal band name. No. Shred It. Do we make them up or say one that existed? Spew.
By answering the question that way, you don't do either.
Exactly. I'm gonna get back to them later. Shred It. Spew from Courtney's Hole. Wow.
Okay.
Renegade Watchers. Nice. 9 Lives to 1. Ooh, I like that one. And we got Immortal Fuck, Dog Shit, Piss Fist, and Meisterbite.
Meisterbite.
So it's Meisterbite, but if you say it with an Aussie accent, it sounds like it's masturbate, but with I don't know. This was my Meisterbite.
It's a good joke when the person who wrote it had to spend this much time selling it.
I was dying when I was making it up. Meisterbite.
Meisterbite.
Because it's Meisterbite kind of sounds like a metal band. I don't know. And then Clan McLeod. Excellent.
Yes.
Meisterbite. All right. Can you explain the source? Why the Guardian dies at the end without being killed? So this is a real question here. It is the drug-induced fever dream Duncan had in the Sanctuary during Endgame. The Guardian doesn't die. He loses the game and is forced to serve as the Guardian at the next event. All right. It eats the energy of immortals. The Guardian did not die at the end. He was stuck being the Guardian. Oh, okay. So he just kind of got sucked into the
black back to Guardian Land.
Yeah, I guess so. And then the next time the planets align, he'll show up again.
Oh, that might be it. Okay, so that's why he disappeared.
I guess so.
Okay, all right.
The awfulness of the source defies all explanation. Good answer.
That one I'm definitely on board with. Yeah.
Glitch in the Matrix.
Okay.
Can you explain the source? Nope. The Guardian seemed to be cursed. He needed someone to kill him in order for that curse to be passed on, leaving the Guardian to die in peace. His weird antics were supposed to be indicators of him going crazy after all those centuries of being forced to be alive. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any real answers here, a real, firm final answer here, but
I mean, nobody cited two authors like that other answer we got up above.
And then here's a long answer here. Let's see. I think they meant to say that the source is the giver of life rather than the taker of it. So the source is the pregnant woman. And of course, Duncan had a part in that. And he conquered the Guardian by refusing to kill him, thus ending the game at a draw and proving he was worthy of the prize. In the end, there didn't have to be only one after all. The Guardian was no longer necessary, and whatever force had held him together all those centuries was gone. And just because I came to a somewhat sensible conclusion doesn't mean anything about the movie made sense. All right, well, he tried to make sense of it.
That's an honorable try. Yeah, better sense than I could have made of any of that.
All right, that's it for the source. There's some general Highlander recap questions here. We asked you to identify the names of all the villains. And we put in a lot of just joke answers here because there was the first four movies, all the villains were K names. Right?
Kurgan, Kane. Yeah, Cal.
Katana. And so we put in like Keenan, Kal-El, Kirstie Alley, Krang, James Corden. He had to be there, I guess. But let's see. Favorite in the Highlander franchise? We got a tie between the game and the quickening.
Excellent.
Where would you like to see Highlander go next? Okay, so we got like a full soft reboot, full reboot, a full remake, or never touch this IP again, and then we got some fill-in answers. Full remake got the most votes, which would be like starting with a new Connor McLeod, use the same name, fighting the Kurgan, make a whole new franchise, just completely remaking the first movie from scratch. Or not from scratch.
I think that's what I voted for. What did you put down on that one, Tanner?
I think I like that one too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Start with there, and then maybe just go get creative in the sequels yourself.
Especially with how underloved the first movie is still. You know what I mean? It's like a little bit of a cult classic. I feel like they could give it some more light.
Yep. Then some of the write-in answers we got: full reboot that makes more effort to make sense and has actors who can actually handle the character accents, etc. LOL. Let's see. You could reboot it with the same characters and just suffer with it not being the same actors. That's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of potential still in the Highlander world. We just need to start fresh, I think. And then we asked the favorite movie was Highlander, of course. Someone said Highlander 3. All right. The Sorcerer.
Okay.
And least favorite Highlander movie, most people said The Source, but we did have a couple votes for Endgame and The Quickening, number 2.
Okay.
So not everybody. It's hard for me to believe that somebody liked another movie less than The Source, but maybe they didn't see The Source. So who knows?
That could be. And those other two movies are pretty crazy, you know?
Oh, they're bad for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, cool. So we turn the
cool.
page on Highlander and
let's get out of that. I want to get
into
spooky.
Freddie Prinze Jr., baby.
Oh, let's get into him. He's so dreamy.
So dreamy. What a dreamboat.
Yeah. So we're talking about I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 1997 slasher film directed by Jim Gillespie. So, Chris, where do you want to start here?
Man, before we get into the breakdown, I would love to hear, because this movie came out in 97, so we were like, what would we have been, like middle school?
Yes.
Something like that. Do you have any
old.
memories of this franchise or any connections to this franchise? I would love to hear your connection to it.
Oh, great. Well, my connection, I guess, would just be I remember when it came out. I was pretty movie savvy, even as a 10-year-old, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I saw it one time. My sister liked Scream. She was a couple years older than me, and I know her and her friends liked the movie Scream, and this movie came out right after that in the wake of Scream, and I definitely saw it at some point. Whether it was on TV or with my sister and her friends or something. Okay. My parents didn't have a strong, they let us watch pretty much whatever at a certain age. And it was not that they were watching with us or anything. But, I generally remembered it and what it was about and what the villain was. Other than that, I didn't remember liking it, and I don't remember all the plot points or anything. But, yeah. What about you? What did you remember?
I had never seen this movie. I have never been a huge fan of scary movies, and especially at that age, I was a real scaredy cat. So, this was not something I would have sought out. But I don't know. I think it made it kind of fun watching it today, or yesterday, with fresh eyes. It's a nice little slice of '90s horror nostalgia, I think.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah. No, it was from a time and in an era. Scream started it, and then there was all sorts of movies that came out just like it. The slasher genre, urban legend. I can't really think of anything else, but I know there was a bunch at the time. Your connection to it is that did you know it existed? Were you a big Freddie Prinze Jr. fan?
I mean, these people, like Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. were Jennifer Love Hewitt, super, super famous. And so certainly knew that it came out, but I was not interested in watching it at the time. I don't know. Excited to hear what you thought of it, watching it again all these years later. Overall, I thought it was sort of fun. I certainly have some criticisms, but I enjoyed watching this movie a lot more than Highlander: The Source. I can give you that right now.
I got a lot of qualms with the movie overall, but it was fun. And the general starting premise of the movie is good. You know what I mean? The situation of it all is a good situation to start a movie. Whether or not it needed to go into this territory, we'll see. But let's get into that, unless you want to talk about anything else up top.
Let's dive in, baby. Let's see. The movie opens with a heavy metal version of Summer Breeze by the band Seals and Crofts. Summer Breeze makes me feel fine. That song, but metal version. So I'm going to let you sing the metal version.
90s
3,
grunge,
2,
more like
1, sing, Tanner.
Summer Breeze makes me feel fine. Kind of like
bit paid off perfectly.
the Crash Test Dummies, or like that, just like that 90s. It's all the music is just so 90s. I don't know. Another had to be there moment.
Yeah,
the 90s had to be there. Pretty bad.
Pretty bad. But we get this. That music is playing over a pretty extended helicopter shot. I thought that shot was pretty, that they had the stuff going over at the beginning. And it ends, the helicopter shot kind of comes to a kid sitting on a cliff, spinning a little necklace thing, and clearly contemplating jumping. right? It's like, is he suicidal? What's going on?
Drinking and like contemplating. Yeah.
And then we cut away from him. There's some fireworks because it's the 4th of July. And it takes us into this nearby town. And there's a beauty pageant going on, and we meet all of our main characters.
Yeah, so we got Freddie Prinze Jr. Mm-hmm. Sarah Michelle Gellar is the beauty queen up on stage. They're having like a beauty contest of some type. Then we got Jennifer Love Hewitt, Ryan Phillippe, and Freddie Prinze Jr. in the audience.
Yep. I did think it was interesting. The person I didn't remember being in this movie was Ryan Phillippe, and I think he has this. I mean, it seems to me like his career is going the best today. You know, he's still in big movies and stuff sometimes.
Is he?
Well, he's in MacGruber.
He's in MacGruber. I was going to say that's like the most he's done from what I've seen in the last like 15 years. But he definitely he tried to get into comedy a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
But MacGruber is awesome, of course.
Yeah.
The rest of them, you're right. I mean, Jennifer Love Hewitt kind of stayed alive for a while. She kind of had some TV shows and stuff in the 2000s, but the rest of them, they definitely faded after about 2004 or 5, right?
Yeah, I did read online Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar are a couple, and they were also in the Scooby-Doo movies together.
They're a couple right now?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And they play Daphne.
Oh, that's cute. Fred. I love Love.
I love Love. I love that.
Freddie Prinze Jr. since 2002. I probably knew that at some point.
Yeah.
Sarah Michelle Prinze. Wow. Cool. So we got the hot young cast up there.
Hot young cast. Yeah.
Hot young cast. There's just, it's a little beauty pageant. Nothing much of note here, I don't think. But they have like an after party, and they're kind of drinking. I couldn't tell. Were they in high school?
I think they just finished high school.
So
like at this point, right? It cuts forward a year pretty soon, and that year I think is their year away at college and their year away in New York and whatever, all that stuff.
When she's on stage, she's like, I'm going to serve my country. How do you serve your country? She said, I'm going to serve my country by becoming an actress and serving with art, which I thought was pretty funny. There's a little scene afterwards with a friend of theirs, or not friend, but some other guy that went to their high school named Max. And he's like the waiter at the event, the post beauty pageant event. It's Johnny Galecki from The Big Bang Theory.
And also Christmas Vacation. Yeah, he's a douche in this movie.
He is in Christmas Vacation, you're right.
Yeah.
Of course, Roseanne.
Is he in Roseanne?
Yeah, he was like the boyfriend of the daughter on Roseanne back in the day.
Got you. He's had a long career. He's been around for a long time.
Yeah, he was funny on that show. I remember they were on Roseanne.
Okay.
So where does this movie go, Chris? How does the plot get set up here?
Yeah, I mean, we meet all these people in town. We also meet Helen, which is Sarah Michelle Gellar. She has kind of a bitchy older sister, which we meet at this point. And the four main characters are kind of dicks to Max, the Johnny Galecki character, and then they excuse themselves and they go down to Dawson's Beach. So they head off and they're just sitting around a campfire down at the beach, and
telling slasher ghost stories and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So they give urban legends. They give a little kind of rundown of who the killer is going to be in this movie. It's someone who escaped from an insane asylum and has a hook. And they explain some of these like gory death things. I was really hoping that the deaths that they each explained was their own death later in the movie. I thought that would have been a nice touch, but they did not do that.
Yeah, this scene was basically just them kind of. A lot of them are like, "Oh, those aren't real stories," and some of them say, "Yeah, these are true." And everyone had their own version of it. No, this is how I heard this story went, kind of thing. And they're like, "That's just a fictional story to stop girls from having premarital sex." It's just an urban legend, American folklore.
The funniest part of that whole conversation was for me at least, was at the very end. Freddie Prinze Jr. goes, "It's an urban legend. They usually originate from some sort of real life incident." And it's
Yeah.
like that was his proof that this guy does in fact exist, that he knows it's an urban legend. Like all the other urban legends, like the alligator in the sewer, that definitely happened. And
yeah.
So take that.
He also says to her, she says, it's just a fictional story to stop girls from having sex. And he says, well, actually, honey, and you know how terrified I am of your IQ, but it's an urban legend.
Yeah.
Just shits all over.
Take that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are out there. They're all kind of like hooking up, and they split off as couples, and they're hooking up, getting drunk.
Yep. Young love.
He tells her that the success rate of high school sweetheart relationships is higher than any other type of relationship, and she asks for proof, and he holds his heart. Very romantic stuff. All the girls swooned in 1997 over Freddie Prinze right here.
No, without a doubt. I was doing a little swooning too. I mean, look at these 4 dreamboats.
They're so dreamy.
So dreamy. And yeah, so we kind of wrap up the beach scene, and they head back towards the car, because they're out in the middle of nowhere. And Barry, who's the Ryan Phillippe character, is too drunk to drive. So Ray takes his keys, and he's driving the car instead. That's Freddie Prinze Jr. Should we use their character names or the actor names?
I will be using probably actor names. None of the, I mean, I might interchange it, but none of their names really stuck out to me, except for Ray, I guess.
Ray a little bit. Yeah, but he was barely in the second half of the movie. So we're not going to be talking about him quite as much.
They tried to set him up as the villain, but anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so Ryan Phillippe is white girl wasted. I don't know how to describe the level of belligerent that he's being while Freddie Prinze Jr. is driving the car.
Yeah, a lot of wooing, woo girl stuff.
Yeah. And standing out the sky, the sunroof in the car, spilling whiskey on everyone. He's just really making a fool of himself and distracting Freddie Prinze Jr. as he tries to drive. They round a corner, and they run into something. They hit something pretty hard. And
that something is a man.
Is it an animal? Is it a deer?
A dog couldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah. They argue about it for a minute, but then they find a bloody boot, like a fisherman's boot. And then they go looking for the source of the blood in the boot, and they find a dead body, the thing that they hit with the car.
And Ryan Phillippe is pissed about the car initially, you fucked up my car, you were driving it, and he's like, I didn't see it, I swear I didn't see him. He kind of came out of nowhere. And so the whole plot is that they hit this guy, and they don't want their lives to be ruined. They're, the girls are like, we should turn him in, but I've got my scholarship and all this, we can't. They'll charge us for manslaughter no matter what we say. There's liquor all over the car, yada, yada, yada. And just, they're basically turns into like, hey, we need to bury this body and get out of here. Which I don't know if it had been done before, this kind of thing, but I feel like it's been done a lot since. It's probably been done in some aspect somewhere in some story. But, they couldn't tell who he was or what he looked like because his face was completely all messed up. His face is all messed up, they say. Which later on, his face looks fine, by the way.
Well, it's not. Yeah, we'll get into that. I don't know. Some of the connective tissue in this movie I found to be very confusing.
Yeah, the logic. There's a lot of missing logic.
But I will say, at this point in the movie, this is a great setup for a slasher.
It's a great premise. Yeah.
It's such a good premise.
Or
it's
even
so
just
good. And
not even a
the name
slasher
of the movie
is
fucking fantastic, too. Like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. What a hook. What did they do last summer? Unfortunately, they spoil it within the first 10 minutes.
I want to see that movie, but like a comedy. And it's like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. You hooked up with somebody, and it's a sexy romp. I don't even know.
Yeah. Johnny Galecki could play the nerdy character. And I have one other qualm with this scene because they were driving the car quite fast. Mm-hmm. They hit this man in the road, and he flew up over the top of the car, getting blood on Ryan Phillippe. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then when they find the body is in front of the car and around a corner.
Yeah. So they had spun around. The car spun around, so it was facing the way that they came.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
I was wondering that too. I'm like, why are they going that way? But then I realized it had spun in a circle. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So they're like, they come to the conclusion, hey, let's dump this body. The water's right there. We can't fuck this up. We're never going to talk about this. And then as they're doing it, a car is coming down the road, and it turns out it's Johnny Galecki.
Guess who it is? The
Mr.
only
Max.
other character we've met to this point in the movie.
And he's such a creepy douche, this guy. Like, he's
yeah.
Just right off the bat, he was so just weird. And you think they want to set it up that he's maybe the killer too, right? Because he's the only one that sees them at all that night. They kind of like bring the body at the last second. They toss it over just the side of the hill and pretend that he's vomiting, right? Like Ryan Phillippe is too drunk. Yeah. And they kind of just play it off like, oh, we got in a little fender bender and because we were drunk driving. Please don't tell anyone. And that's that. He drives away.
Yep. But he also notices that the car is kind of fucked up. I was actually, so he's the first, like, spoiler alert for a movie that came out in 97, but he's the first to die. And I thought that was a real blunder because he's really the only other person you would expect to be the killer at that point in the movie.
Right.
I thought they should have kept him around as like a potential killer for longer.
Totally, because he was such a creep. I mean, yes,
you're
right. They were starting that, and then they killed him so fast that then you're like, okay, I don't have anything to hook onto. Like, who could this killer be? There's no thread besides they kind of do Freddie Prinze Jr.
Right.
And that's kind of sloppily done.
Yeah.
But anyway. Where do they go next? They dump the body.
They go dump the body. And so they load this dead guy into the back of the car and drive it down to kind of like a marina, like dock thing. And the four of them together carry the body out to the end of the dock. And they kind of argue about like, okay, like we hit this guy. Do we throw him in the water to clean up our tracks? Or is that like the moral line? Like, it was an accident before, but this is not an accident. And finally, Sarah Michelle Gellar is just like, well, fine, I'm going to do it. And so she goes to push the body in the water. And do you want to explain this part?
Well, yeah, I mean, in typical like slasher movie style, as she's like about to shove him in the water, his hand goes up and he's like alive and grabs her tiara that she won. And like she shoves him into the water and she's holding the tiara. And then, it's like one of those last second, like, oh, is he still alive? So now they actually have killed somebody, right? He was still alive, but they shoved him in the water anyway. And it's like, it's too late now. He's already in the water. And then Ryan Phillippe dives in to grab the tiara because it's his girlfriend's thing. Like, it was so important he had to have this tiara back. And dives in, and as he's grabbing the tiara, the guy's eyes open underwater. They're a couple cheap jump scares is all, right?
They use a lot of jump scares in this movie. Yeah. I think like this movie wasn't actually that scary once we got into it. I was expecting a lot more like heebie-jeebies, and it wasn't actually that scary, but they did use a lot of jump scares.
And, a lot of just trying to recreate other movies that did it better kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they promise to never talk about it again. Ryan Phillippe gets really mad and like puts his hand over JLH's neck to like say that you'll never say anything, and she promises. And then
worse than that, he makes her agree to take it to the grave. It's just such a like, I don't know. For a slasher movie, it's the right way to write that, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's like, well, don't say it that way, then we're all gonna die,
Yeah.
So
they make the promise, don't ever talk about it, and then it cuts to a year later, and she's just finishing up her year at college. We got some more bad music Or just
before we
just
get there,
typical
Tanner, there was
90s music?
one
Yes.
little thing at the end as they're leaving. It zooms in on like a coin on the ground. It's like it's the necklace that the guy was playing with at the very beginning of the movie.
Right.
Which connects him to this dead body somehow, but we don't know how yet.
Yeah. Well, you just assume that it was the guy that was like contemplating suicide at the very beginning.
Yes.
You're just like, oh, well, obviously they hit this guy because he was out drunk in the middle of the road. So,
yep.
And then, so then it cuts to, and what happens next? She's all depressed, and we got the 90s. Every single like transition in this movie has like a cheesy 90s song. The lyrics here for the song were sheepdogs standing in the rain, bullfrog doing it again. I can't explain to you how 90s those lyrics are.
Yeah. It's very Presidents of the United States, if you remember that band. It's like
I think that was the Toad the Wet Sprocket song.
The Toad the Wet Sprocket song also could have been that one, yeah.
Yeah. So she's going home for summer. She just finished up her year. She's depressed.
They are so fucking moody at this point. All of them.
Yeah. They've kept it in all year. They killed someone. Her mom, she goes home to her mom, and her mom's like, "Are you on drugs? What the hell is going on with you?" And there's not much. It just kind of follows her at her house until after this dinner with her mom, where she's all depressed. She gets a letter. What does the letter say?
IKWYDLS, which we all know stands for.
She doesn't know
what you did last summer.
And the next hour of the movie, she's trying to decipher what this acronym stands for and has no idea. And she's looking at all the books.
It's not
she's
actually
searching
an acronym.
The net.
I'm being a jerk. It says, "I know what you did last summer," and it's written on a little card. There's no return address. There's no stamp. It's just an envelope that got dropped in the mail. What she did last summer was, take part in some vehicular manslaughter. So she's obviously concerned.
/ murder.
Yep.
She, I think then she's like, I got to find Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. What's her name? Helen Shivers. Great.
That was her name? Helen Shivers. Okay.
Yeah.
So Julie James is off to find Helen Shivers.
See, we got to use their celebrity name. There's no way anyone could keep this straight. Even if you've seen the movie, there's no way. Ray Bronson. She goes to find Sarah Michelle Gellar, and she goes to her sister's like antique store, or what kind of store does she own?
It seemed, kind of antique store. It kind of seemed like a JCPenney, like how would you describe that kind of a store? Like a big box store, like a department store.
Department store.
It kind of seemed
like a smaller, like a small town one.
Yeah, exactly.
And she goes to meet her sister and finds out that she didn't go to New York and become an actress. She's working at this department store selling perfume. And they hadn't talked in a year. It seems like the friend group has broken up. But what happens here? They kind of just, she tells her about the letter.
Their friend group kind of broke up, Tanner, and I'm saying here and now, maybe we should think twice before we do a murder together, because maybe our friend group would fall apart. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
I mean, it can go two ways. It can either strengthen a friendship or break it apart. It depends on how you view it. I mean, if you're together,
how you murder, it depends on how you murder.
I mean, if you guys are on the same page about it, that's only going to strengthen your bond.
There you go. So they have this like conversation that's like, someone knows, but we were so careful. And it's like, no, you weren't. Like, there's blood on the highway. Like, there was literally a witness. That guy, Max, drove by and saw you guys at the scene of the crime. This is like not a very good murder.
Yeah, there's probably a trail of blood where they were dragging the body. There's probably, the car was wrecked. I mean, that's a huge one.
Yeah, they weren't wearing gloves. There's probably hair everywhere. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
But they go. So this is kind of the like in the Blues Brothers, they get the band back together. This is the get the band back together scene in this movie. So They, get
the
Helen
hotties
at the
back
store,
together. Yeah.
get the hotties back together. Like they're way hotter as a foursome,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So then they go get Barry, Barry and Ryan Phillippe. They go get Ryan Phillippe, and Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar had broken up in the year since, even though they were all smitten last time we saw them a year ago. And Ryan Phillippe is kind of a dick. And Sarah Michelle Gellar smokes now because she's just so distraught over the murder that they did.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything through there?
No, not really. He's like, fuck that. We never want to talk about it. And she brings up the note, and they get him to like follow along, and kind of they're gonna start figuring out who sent the letter and what's going on here.
Yep.
Is this where they go to the library?
Not yet. We don't go to the library yet. They go. Their initial thought is obviously the person who saw us do the murder is probably the one who sent this letter. So they go confront Ryan Galecki. Or did I say his name right?
Johnny Galecki.
Johnny Galecki, excuse me. And he is working as a fisherman at the dock.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I have never been a fisherman, but I would love to hear what you thought about their fish business going on at the dock there.
I didn't really catch anything about it.
Okay, they just
they're more obsessed with ice hooks.
They just walk around with buckets full of fish, and then there's this one room with like human-sized blocks of ice, like enormous blocks of ice. And then like throughout that room, there are individual fish, like one at a time, hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, no, I have no idea.
That room in particular that just made me laugh. I was like, this, like,
all I know is they were more obsessed with.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're more obsessed with the hook. They kept showing the hook, and they refer to it as like a fisherman's hook, I think, but it's an ice hook, isn't it? Isn't that like the kind of hook that you use to like pick up giant blocks of ice? Yeah.
Yes.
And it becomes like a fisherman's hook in the lore of this franchise. But it doesn't have any connection to, I guess, fishermen. Everyone knows a fisherman has ice hooks. I don't know.
Do we know that?
Why don't they use like a fishing pole? What would have been a better weapon for a fisherman to have? A fishing pole?
What if it was a giant anchor?
A giant anchor, or he would like stand up top over a bridge and like dangle a lure down with some like I don't even know.
Catches you inside the cheek and reels you in.
Yeah, it's like a 6-pack of beer, and like you're like, oh, some beer, and it catches the teens, or like some. I don't even know. I'd love that if he was like catching teens on a fishing hook.
That's a whole different movie there. But anyway, so we meet Max again. Ryan Phillippe just goes in and threatens him and says he's gonna beat him up or kill him if he doesn't leave them alone. And then I loved Johnny Galecki's last line here. He goes, "I'll call the cops on your college quarterback ass."
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that, but it just made me chuckle. Like, that is the worst burn I have ever heard in my life.
Horrible burn.
Just really terrible. Yeah, so what happens next, Tanner? Where are we off to from there?
Did you say that they met up with Ray already?
Not yet. I think that's our next thing. Yep.
Well, there is some line of dialogue somewhere in here that one of them does reveal that some guy named David Egan had died. I think it was Sarah Michelle Gellar. It was like, hey,
I think you're right.
They found this body here, caught up in a shrimp net. That was the guy that we hit.
Hold up. Sorry, I think it was Jennifer Love Hewitt. Different
maybe she did.
Woman name. Yeah, because she's the kind of bookworm, and she's, I think, felt the most guilty.
Yeah, so she kind of knew about it, and the part I wanted to point out is that it said, officially, the police said it was an accidental drowning, but when we saw that guy, his face was fucked up. Like, it was like so scarred and bloody that you couldn't see it. And how would they think that was just a drowning and not suspect any foul play? You know what I mean?
Terrific question. Yeah.
I guess that kind of, well, now that I say it out loud, it kind of plays into how it all ends. So never mind. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Yeah. So they're at the docks here. They meet Max, and then they come up they find Ray, Freddie Prinze Jr., working at the docks as well. Freddy the fisherman.
He's looking like an Abercrombie pirate, man. It's just
totally.
No fisherman in the world looks like that. Just wearing a black, like cut off, like wife beater style shirt. Yeah, nobody.
Yeah, way too
no
sexy to be a fisherman.
Yes.
Well, he is truly the deadliest catch. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, for Sarah Michelle Gellar, he was.
Yeah. Yeah. So they kind of catch up with him, tell him what's going on, and she says, you know, he's like, "Hey, I still like you," blah blah blah, and she says, "I don't blame you, but I don't want to know you either." So it kind of ends with that, like they don't want to be around each other, right? They are filled with guilt from all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it cuts back to Max immediately, and this is what we were saying earlier.
Yes,
it shows him working in the fish hut, and it's super like steamy in there, right?
Yes.
And
next to all those enormous blocks of ice.
And what happens here? I mean, he just gets. I said he gets uppercutted.
Yes.
Gets uppercutted with the ice hook that he was previously using, and killed.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever bring him up again, if I'm not mistaken. Do they
you
ever?
Might be that. I wasn't tracking that, but you might be right with that. Yeah. He went pretty cool. Well, no, that's not true because we see him again later. He shows up in the back of the car.
Johnny? Oh, is he? He's the body in the car.
He's the body in the back of the car.
I mean,
yeah. So we do see him again. Yeah.
Okay.
But like we talked about before, like this is the
dude.
Like to this point in the movie, you either think that the killer is going to be the guy they hit with the car because they kind of established that he was still alive underwater, or this guy. Like this is one of two suspects for the killer, and they kill him off immediately.
Or they kind of are setting up Freddie Prinze Jr. here too. Like I think Ryan Felipe, he accuses him several times of being the killer, and again at the end they say that's because he's working at the docks. That's it. That's their only reasoning. And maybe to like keep them silent or something would be the angle.
Not to jump ahead too far, but there's the bulletproof line. We all know you have a slicker.
Oh yeah. Apparently half the town has the same jacket and wears it like over their face so you can't see their face.
Yeah, exactly. So we leave this scene. Max is dead. The killer has his first kill of the movie. And we go follow Barry, who's working out at the gym, looking mad cut. Way to go, Ryan Phillippe. And we kind of, he returns to his locker and someone has stolen his jacket. And he goes outside as they're turning on the key to the ignition in his car. And so somebody grabbed his jacket, somebody nicked his car, and he runs after them.
Yep.
Do you want to explain the second half of this guy? This scene here?
Yeah, so wait, what happened just now? You finish it out.
Oh, yeah, no worries. So Ryan Phillippe got his jacket and his car stolen, and he runs outside to confront the thief, chases the car down the road a ways, and then whoever's driving the car in reverse puts it into forward and comes after him. So, the killer's in the car and is trying to run him over, runs him through a wall, and then didn't kill him.
Yeah,
he's the scene ends with exactly.
Yeah, sorry, stands over him and doesn't kill him at all. He runs through like drives through a like fishing hut, like an entire house, and out the other side. And he's hurt, but like he, for some reason doesn't kill him. I don't understand that. Can you tell me why?
I have no idea.
I think they explain it later because at one point he writes like soon on a mirror, and it's the whole thing. And I wanted to bring this up at some point, but it's the anniversary. They want to do it on the anniversary of the day that he was hit on the 4th of July. And it's so stupid because every like horror movie is obsessed with anniversaries, on the night that this happened 1 year ago. It's always like this anniversary thing. They're obsessed with anniversaries.
But for me, it really it was kind a problem that he didn't kill him, because it changes the tone of this movie. You're never sure like how high the stakes are. Like, are they about to get killed, or
are they being
can
pranked?
they just go visit the dead guy's relatives? No problem. You know,
it's
like
are they
do all these.
Yeah. Are they like trying to just out them and like get them arrested, like make them face the consequences of their actions, or are they actually being murdered? Right. That's like,
yeah, exactly.
Where are the stakes going here? Because like,
how scared should I be of this bad guy? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So he doesn't kill him, and now he's at the hospital, and they're all talking. Some guy in a slicker, he says. Let's see. What happens next? I think this is where maybe they go to the library?
Yes. I think that's right. Yeah. But we there is a quick scene of Ryan Phillippe in the hospital. And he kind of, again, like you said before, accuses Freddie Prinze Jr. of being the killer. I don't understand what his motivation would be. Like, why would he? Why
the
would
killer?
he be? Yeah, why would Freddie Prinze Jr. be the killer?
Yeah, I just maybe because he wanted to keep everyone's mouth shut, or like he was mad that they made him go through with all this. It doesn't make sense. It's a very loose thing. And at the end, she well, we'll talk about it when we get there.
We'll get to that. Yeah. So you're right. Then they do go to the library and they use a Netscape program from 1993 to look up any existing relatives of the guy that washed up on shore. What was his name again? I keep forgetting. I need to write his name.
David Egan.
David Egan. Thank you.
Yeah, and they it just seems so easy to pull up articles at that time. I feel like I can't find stuff that easily, even to this day.
Without a doubt, yeah.
There's a great song here, more funny song lyrics from the 90s. The lyric was, "A melancholy butterfly just cries tears that sting." I don't know.
Beautiful.
More 90s
beautiful
poetry.
Yeah, it is poetry. That's exactly the right word. I am so moved.
Yeah, so they
Let
find
me
out
regain my composure, and then I'll start talking about this movie again. Wait. Okay, I'm ready.
Are you regained?
I'm regained, yes.
Perfect.
Like a butterfly.
Are you Chris gained? Chris Gaines. I didn't even mean to say that with your name being Chris. That just happened. All right.
Works.
So yeah, they find out that this guy has a sister, the guy that died, and they devise a plan. Her and JLH and SLG or SMG. JLH and SMG devise a plan to go out to the sister's house and pretend that their car breaks down and to go talk to her to try to get information about the brother and maybe just try to figure out what's going on here. So they drive out to the boonies. I
do want to pause for a second.
Yeah.
I need to mention FPJ did not join JLH and SMG on this trip out to the woods. But also, why are they doing this? Like, what do they have to gain from this?
Yeah, like you said, the threads,
so risky.
The mystery and the thread of all this movie is very very thin. A lot of the logic and choices don't make sense of like how they jump to these conclusions and like, oh, well, this must be the brother, the father did it or whatever. All the, the jumps that they make don't make any sense.
And this one, they even go, what do we have to lose? And it seems pretty obvious that their life is what they have to lose. This is a slasher movie and they know there's a killer on the loose.
Well, Chris, they already felt like they lost their life that night, so they might as well continue on.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So yeah, they show up at this house. It's Anne Heche, as she's supposed to be a hillbilly lady, but she's very good looking. But she lives out in this shitty house alone. Yeah, they kind of like lie to her. Like I said, they tell her their car broke down, and they start a conversation. And somehow it leads to her telling her that her brother died, right?
Yep.
And they were like, oh, they're talking about their high school, and they're like, oh, I kind of remember your brother. What was his friend's name? And he had a really good friend. They're trying to get like info on maybe this guy's buddy. And she brings up a story about some guy named Billy Blue who showed it up at her house after her brother died, and like they commiserated together and they mourned together, and like they were sweet on each other for a second, but then he disappeared out of her life. Yeah. So I guess that's enough information for them, right? Did I miss anything there?
No, that's about right. Yeah, it's just so funny to think about showing up at someone's house under those flimsy pretenses and being like, yeah, so what was your brother's friend's name again? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Just so fishy. But they get the name they're looking for, this Billy Blue, which already sounds like a made up name.
It sounds so fake. Fine. And
so
she doesn't. There's a moment later on where she's like, she like realizes it, and JLH does a lot of exposition out loud in this movie, where she's just like, maybe that's a fake name or something like that. Maybe it was someone else. She just says out
yes.
Loud. Anyway, yeah. So they apparently SMG left her cigarettes at the house, and Anne Heche comes out and gives it to her, and she finds out basically that they were lying about the car not being broken down, right?
Yes.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but with anything, really. It didn't really come into play at all.
No, does not get revisited even once. But we do follow. Are you ready to move on from Anne Heche for now?
I could talk about Anne Heche all night. In fact,
great. Let's do that. Let's make this an Anne Heche pod.
What happened to Anne Heche? That's a question. What happened to any of these people? And then I wanted to ask what happened to us, which is the question Sarah Michelle Gellar poses soon.
What did happen to us?
She says, "What happened to us?"
Such a good thing going. Yeah.
We used to be best friends, and then she says, "We used to be a lot of things," whatever that means.
Sounds sexy.
Yeah. So where does it go? I don't know where they have that conversation, but where do they go from here?
Yeah, that was. I think that was outside of Sarah Michelle Gellar's house. Jennifer Love Hewitt drops her off, and we see her walk inside. Her dad's listening to football, and we get some A+ Diet Coke product placement before a scene of her walking upstairs. And before she goes upstairs, we see the killer walking upstairs. So we know that. Does he have a name? Also, you know, all these slasher movies, it's like Freddy and Ghostface. Does this killer have a name?
The Gordon's Fisherman.
The Gordon's Fisherman.
Isn't that the Gordon's?
That's what I'm supposed to call this guy?
Yeah.
What a terrible name for a villain.
No, that's not it. That's just you know what he looks like, right? The Gordon's Fisherman.
No, I don't know what the Gordon's Fisherman is.
Oh, it's
there we go.
I guess he's more wearing yellow, but it's just the brand name of fish sticks.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that we get a little info here that I guess they also revealed in the Anne Heche scene is that the girlfriend died. The girlfriend of not Billy Blue, but David Egan or his wife or whatever, had died in a car crash right on that same road, right? And then so they're like, oh, well, maybe he was wanting to die. Maybe he was trying to get hit by a car that night, trying to make themselves feel better. He was obviously out, like it was another anniversary thing. It was a year after the wife or the girlfriend had died that he was out on this road. So anyway, they pause with that, and then they're back at their house. The killer's in the house. Like you said, they have a whole scene where she just pours a Diet Coke and like downs the entire Diet Coke. They also like she says hi to her dad in the scene, and he just doesn't respond at all.
Does not acknowledge her. Does not even look her in the face.
I wanted him to die after that.
Yeah, her family was really mean. Her sister was really mean too.
Oh, that scene later on. Okay, yeah. She sucks.
I feel like she was like the Cinderella with like the evil step family.
Yeah, I mean they didn't. There's no reason for her to be like that throughout this, but
yeah,
she was. Yeah, so I don't know. She just kind of. The killer goes into her closet and he's like panting and like watching her, but like she goes to bed, nothing really happens, right? Until the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she wakes up.
It's another one of those moments where it's like, if this was a slasher film, go attack that pretty girl. Like, that's what these movies are for.
I
What are
know.
you waiting for?
It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
when you-
because you think they're just trying to teach him a lesson, but no, they're just spooking him until the anniversary again, like making the point of the what does the anniversary mean? It doesn't have anything to do with anything. The motivations of this killer, by the way, when we get to it. Okay, I don't want to
are
spoil it yet.
so confusing, and we will
It
get
doesn't
there
make
in a
any
little bit.
sense. Yeah, so okay, so she
Uh,
wakes up and her
Yeah.
hair is just like cut, and on the mirror it says soon.
Yeah.
And the tiara was on her head. And that was it. So he hid in her closet just to like cut her hair and like put a tiara on her head. Spook her a little bit.
That'll show her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what happens next? I think
And it's just so insane that they did that. And this is another reason it pisses me off that they killed Johnny Galecki, because we already know he's capable of murder, and we're just watching him like do like a prank, you know?
right.
It's like the stakes are already higher than this, and you
Yeah, they
want me
killed
to
him
be
immediately.
scared for her? Yeah.
Why didn't he wait till the 4th of July to kill Johnny Galecki?
Great
Right?
question. And the fact that Johnny Galecki's dead just eliminates who we think this killer, you know, like it's just.
And why does he kill that guy at all? He doesn't need to kill him at all. He has nothing to do with anything.
Correct.
And
Yeah, he's
from the killer's point of
unconnected.
view.
Yeah.
Or
maybe he is connected, and we'll find that out in one of the sequels. That would be a good twist.
Good call.
That would be a good twist. But who knows? Okay,
yes.
Jennifer Love Hewitt in the morning. So Sarah Michelle Gellar got her hair messed up. Oh my gosh.
Such a bad hair day she's having. She said, "Get over here now. I need you to help me with my bad hair day."
Yes. And Jennifer Love Hewitt goes for a drive. Trunk, exactly. And the trunk is making weird noises. And after what we've just seen, it's like, oh man, is the killer in the trunk? Nope. What's in the trunk, Tanner?
It's Max's body.
Yep.
Covered in crabs.
Yeah.
So
clicking, there's noisy crabs.
The noisiest crabs of all time that you can hear while you're driving in the back trunk. And she freaks out and leaves her car in the middle of the road, and runs to Sarah Michelle Gellar's house. I don't know how far away it was, but didn't seem too far. And then like she gets her and Ryan Felipe is there, and they bring her back to the car. She said, "Oh my God, there's a body." They bring it back, and the trunk is completely empty. No trace of body or crabs anywhere.
Or even salt water. It looks like totally clean. Yeah, no.
It's completely clean, and it's like, oh, is she crazy? Is she just envisioning all this because she's scared and, under a lot of stress? There's a lot of those moments in this movie where it's like, are they just freaking out over nothing?
Yeah.
So the movie takes you in a lot of ways. Like, what am I supposed to be fearing here? Is it the fear of like, am I fearing my regret and the mental illness that I'm creating about what we did? Are we fearing like retribution or consequences based on what we did, or are we fearing a killer? And it's you never know where the movie's trying to take you with that, and it reveals at the end, but it's too late.
And I think it makes the movie worse. I think if the whole movie was just like, this guy they tried to kill is trying to kill them now, and that was the movie, and then you can put a twist ending at the end, it would have been a stronger movie. But because they never picked anything for us to be scared of or committed to any one bad guy, it just like, it left them in this weird middle ground with a lot of the storytelling choices, and like, and it's just kind of confusing some of the time.
Not very spooky for sure, but I will say, so the body's gone. There's multiple times in this movie where bodies they disappear so quickly and get cleaned up so fast. Probably like 3 or 4 times, bodies just completely disappear. Bodies move fast in this movie. Also, they were in like an open neighborhood, like a suburban neighborhood where she left her car. So nobody saw, and he managed to get all the crabs out of there cleanly. Like there's no crabs left on the ground outside of the trunk. And this probably all happened in like 10 minutes, it seemed like. So whatever you want to say about that. But yeah, what happens next?
This was another place where I feel like they never like it's like the stakes are so unclear because she's like, I just want my life back. I've been hiding all this time. And it's like, there's a murderer. Like, well, you can't want your life back right now until the murderer gets caught. I don't know how to make this more clear to you.
At the end of the scene, she's
kind of sad last year, but like, there's a murderer trying to kill you. You should probably like look out for that.
Yeah. She's like screaming in the middle of the road. It's a very cheesy moment. What are you waiting? Just yelling in the middle of this neighborhood.
Yeah. So this is where the gang splits up, to put it in Scooby-Doo terms, because two of these actors are in the Scooby-Doo movies. So Helen has to be a part of the parade. Since she was the parade queen last year, she has to go be part of this 4th of July parade. Jennifer Love Hewitt decides she's going to go back to the sister and ask her about Billy Blue, and she's going to bring her sister's yearbook. Her older bitchy sister Elsa is the same graduating class, so she's going to bring the yearbook and see if they can get Anne Heche to figure out who Billy Blue is. So she goes out there alone. Mm-hmm. Again, they now know there's a killer, and they killed this girl's brother. It's insane. Like, don't go there. And Ryan Phillippe goes with Sarah Michelle Gellar to kind of like see if this guy's going to come out and try and attack them at the parade. And Freddie Prinze Jr. is just nowhere to be found.
Yeah, so they completely cut him out of the movie as like, let's pretend that he's the killer, I guess. Yeah. Well, by not showing him, but also not leading any clues that it could be him. It's just like, he's not around, so he must be the guy.
Yeah, it's got to be him.
He says, she's like, all right, you go to the parade and with Helen, don't let her out of your sight. If he shows up, and he goes, I'll pound his ass, which I just because I'm a child, I thought was funny.
That is funny. I like that.
Yeah. So let's see. I think it's kind of interchanging between both those scenes, right? Between the parade and between the sister, the Anne Heche character.
Exactly. Yes. So we get, Helen's on the parade. And like you said before, everyone in town seems to wear this same dark, slicker, as they call it, the raincoat, fisherman's raincoat.
And the same hat.
And the mysterious hat. Yeah. And they just wear that around town.
And it like covers up, like they have the collar up so high that you can't see their face. And he's just like looming in the corner. He sees them in the parade, and the guy starts walking away, and so he chases after him and like tackles him, and it's just this old man looking at him like, scared. Mm-hmm. And it's meant to be this moment of like, oh shoot, it was just an old man. But why couldn't it be an old man? Why if it was the actual guy in that moment?
It is an old man. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, why? I was like, well, maybe that is him. Why are they so like, oh well, this can't be him? Why not? Yeah. Who knows at this point?
Yeah. And then they showed, and this is, I'm really mad at this movie. They showed the killer on the roof holding the fish hook, right? So that's supposed to be the real killer. Right. It wasn't this red herring, nice old man. It was this is the real one. I wanted him to zip line down and attack her so bad. Like, put the hook over like a telephone line and slide into the parade.
Yeah.
And use it like a zip line, and he didn't do it.
And there's like commotion around the parade so nobody notices or something.
My biggest problem with this movie is they missed out on that zip line shot.
Oh, you love zip lines.
Oh, anytime you can get one into a movie, I'm a fan. Anyway. So while this is happening, to cut back to Jennifer Love Hewitt, she talks to Anne Heche, and Anne Heche had saved a note that her brother, and again, her brother is the dead body that washed up, who they think they killed. He left a suicide note, and so she goes to get the suicide note, but the suicide note is in the same handwriting as the I Know What You Did Last Summer note, and it says, I will never forget last summer.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be the suicide note. I
Mhm.
never forget what you did last summer. Is that what it said?
It
I'll
just
never
says, "I
forget
will
last summer or
never
something.
forget last summer." Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is like proof to her somehow that this is where she says out loud, "Oh my god, it wasn't your brother."
Yeah.
Somehow.
It's like he could have written that. I mean, that could be a suicide note. It's a shitty suicide note, but you know,
Yeah.
maybe it's him. And it turned. I mean, this killer really has an MO, just like a summer-based note to
Yep.
really spook you, to spook you. Yeah.
At this point, do we know who it is yet?
No.
Okay.
No. No. No.
Yeah.
And I had to rewatch a couple parts of this to figure out who the fuck the killer was. I don't know if you had that same experience, but like,
I did come at some point before the at the end they make you think it's Freddie Prinze Jr., but I think there's somewhere where I figured it out before, but
okay.
we'll get there when I get there.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see what happens here. I think this is where they're at the beauty pageant, and Barry is watching Sarah SMG on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And the killer shows up and
Yes, he
kills
does.
Barry.
Yes.
It's kind of a
Also,
yeah.
this whole movie is so stupid. It has so many stupid little things. But like Barry is standing alone on the balcony in a crowded theater, which is why he's able to be murdered so easily.
Yeah, jeez.
Like they're in the middle of a beauty pageant, and Sarah Michelle Gellar's on stage as the guest judge, and Barry is on the balcony, which is being used for storage. There's nothing up there except for one dude.
Yeah, like the worst place you could be if you're worried about a killer coming after you. It's just alone in a place where it's like loud so nobody could hear you if something happened. And she sees it happen from stage. Just like kind of barely, and is like starts screaming and running out there, and everyone's like blocking her and stopping her and like being like, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And so much of this movie could be avoided by like anyone believing anybody or
Also
yeah.
here, like she claims like, oh, Barry just got murdered and it happened on the balcony of the theater that we're in, but they did such a bad job of searching that balcony. And he's also missing at this point. It seems like it would be really easy to just like, oh yeah, it turns out there is a murderer just rolling around.
They treat it immediately like
body up here.
She's just a hysterical, crazy person,
Yeah.
What is she screaming about? Yeah, and again, the body completely disappeared just so easily, and just so fast. But she gets the cop to give her a ride home. He finally offers, even though he's being a dick the entire time. So she's getting a ride home from him, and he doesn't believe her, and he's like, all right, I'll put out a missing persons thing for their boyfriend, finally, after 20 minutes of telling him this.
Yeah.
And this is also where like the legend comes up again, where he's like, oh yeah, I've heard the story of the fisherman hook. It happens like this. Everyone's got their own version of it. But I love this part. There's a road closed, or there's like a thing in the middle of the road where he can't go through. And he's like, well, I guess I have to take the alleyway. Just like the most obvious. I was just like, oh, geez. Of course something's going to happen here.
In the Highlander movie we just watched, in The Source. It was just such an obvious trap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, of course, comes across a guy fixing his car, and he's like halfway out in the alley, so he can't get through. And he's like, shoot, let me get out and help this guy. And she doesn't think anything of it, which I would be so suspicious of everything. And you can clearly see it's a man in a slicker jacket. So at the last second, she tries to yell behind you, even though he's facing the fisherman. And of course, the fisherman stabs him and kills him.
Yep.
And then he chases her through town. Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's kind of intermixed. This scene where she's running away from him, heading towards her sister's shop, and then between that and Jennifer Love Hewitt doing more searching on the internet, this time at home on her old computer. What did we find out here?
And this time, let's see, the first time she went on the internet, she found that the year, so David Egan had been in a car crash the year before, and he had killed his girlfriend. That was found out on the first Netscape search. And this Netscape search, we found out that that girl, whose name is Susie, was survived by her father. And they bring it up very briefly, and I didn't catch it the first time, so I had to go back and watch it again. Because spoiler alert, he's the killer.
Yeah, this is where I realized, oh, it's the dad, because I knew it wasn't going to be Freddie Prinze Jr. myself, even though they kind of lead you onto that, and maybe you missed this little quick detail. But when I heard that, I was like, first of all, the jump in logic to like, oh, this girl died and is survived by her father. Well, it must be her father that's killing everybody. Yeah. Why? Okay, so the logic is that, okay, this guy and his girlfriend or wife or whatever got in a car crash. He was fine. She died. And then a year later, they hit and killed, or they thought they hit and killed. Jeez, I can't even piece it all together.
David Egan.
You're they thought they killed the.
We need to have this conversation.
Boyfriend.
I'm so confused by this. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So girlfriend dies in car crash. A year later, boyfriend gets hit by a car and thrown off a cliff or into the water. And because of that, her conclusion is, oh, well, the dad must be trying to kill us because why?
I don't know. I have no idea.
He has no motivation to be after them at all, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Except for that.
If he's really upset about his daughter being dead, you would think he would be stoked that this David Egan guy is dead.
Right. But you do find out that, I mean, later on, I guess, if it's too early for that he did kill David Egan. He killed the boyfriend. And then they ran him over just like after he had killed him, like that night. Right?
Oh, yeah, because he was at the scene. That's the only reason he knew it was them. But then why would he be angry at them at all?
Just for almost killing him and throwing him off the side. And because he's a crazy murderer already, then, you know, he has the motivation to be this psycho killer guy, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The logic jump for her, though, makes no sense because she doesn't know all these details yet. But she jumps to the conclusion that, oh, her dad must be doing it just because he's alive. That's it.
Yeah. Even though they have no connection to this woman, like, at all.
They have no connection to her. They didn't kill. Mm-hmm. At this point, I thought he was mad. The dad was mad that they killed the boyfriend, the David Egan, and that he didn't get a chance to kill him himself. So he was mad about not being able to exact revenge himself, right? That's kind of how I took that at first. But it turns out he was just mad that they almost killed him with their car.
Which is a great reason for like 5 homicides.
I mean, you could just turn them into the police like, hey, they almost killed me, but I'm right here. And they left me for dead. Like, send these people to jail. He could just do that. Instead, he goes through all this murderous shit. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
So where are we here? That she finds us out that it's possibly the dad. Yeah.
Yep. And meanwhile, Helen is still running, and she finds her bitchy sister at the department store, and she's kind of like closing up shop for the night. We're kind of nighttime part. And I know that this movie is kind of famous for the bad guy never running, but always being right behind you. So there's a bunch of scenes of him just walking with the hook and just like following her through town. And it is kind of funny when you string them all together.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
That's a classic like Michael Myers thing, though, too, where he's just always walking, but he's always right behind her. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sarah Michelle Gellar ends up at the department store. They lock the front door, and she goes to call the police and sends her sister to lock the back door. Sister gets killed.
When she's like trying to get into her sister's shop, like the door's already locked for the night, and she's like banging on the window. The killer's coming up. The sister takes so long. It's so frustratingly long to like get over to unlock the door. She's like, "Huh? What are you talking? What are you screaming about? Oh, hold on." And just like like her sister's obviously like screaming in serious distress, and she is like just the most lazy walking person I've ever seen in my life.
She's chilling, man. She's chilling. Yeah.
It was so frustrating. Like nobody, again, like the actions and like the things, the people respond the way they do to all the main characters' actions. Like they don't make any logical sense. Nobody would react like that. You know, her sister would obviously, unless she's a true monster, would like run over the door and let her in and believe her. Like, oh, somebody's chasing you. Okay. Because you've never done anything crazy like that before. It's not like she's a psychopath. Anyway. I got a lot to say about people and how they act in this movie. So many things could be avoided by just like being like just acting like a decent human being, you know,
or just like how a normal person would actually behave. Like a lot of the plot, a lot of the things that push the plot forward in this movie are just like not how humans act. Yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, just don't believe anyone, don't listen, just disregard everything they say. Just basic, anyway. So the sister dies, and it shows how he's able to hide bodies so quickly. He picks them up with the hook and carries them around like an ice pack of ice. And so there's a little showdown in the store here, and she gets on top of this elevator or something and pulls a rope to get herself on the second floor. What was that?
It's like a dumbwaiter from like way back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would have one in a modern department store, but it's, you know, it is what it is. I had a bigger problem with the fish hanging from the ceiling on the wharf. But she ends up jumping out the window, runs away, and she's about to reach. She is like 10 feet away from the 4th of July parade. When she thinks she hears something from behind her, she turns, and when she turns back, the killer is right in front of her. And murders her in a stack of tires, like 10 feet away from a parade, like hundreds of people.
Our second stack of tire related incident in the last 2 weeks, Chris. Remember in Highlander: The Source?
That's right.
The guy in the stack of tires.
I had not made that connection, so I'm glad that you did. That's fantastic.
So she dead. They don't really show it, and I thought maybe she was gonna survive, but she's dead, right?
She's dead as far as I know. Yeah, because we see her body later, right?
Oh, maybe. I can't remember.
In the ice at the end. Anyway, but as far as I know, she's dead. I think that was her at the end, but so Julie is running around. She goes to try and find Ray. And sorry, this is
JLH.
JLH. I almost said Sarah Jessica Parker, but she's not in this movie, just the other two. Jessica Love Hewitt, thank you. She goes to run and find Freddie Prinze Jr. So many triple names, and finds him at his boat because remember he's a fisherman now, so they like talk about all this crazy stuff that's been going on and how they think this was a murder, but very quickly JLH recognizes that the name on Freddie Prinze Jr.'s boat is Billy fucking Blue.
Oh, Chris, did this blow your mind?
This blew my mind, Tanner.
Were
yours
you
was funnier because yours was not the right way to say it, but yes.
I actually thought of this earlier. Maybe I had remembered it from when I saw it 20 years ago or whatever, but I had thought like, I wonder I think it's Freddie Prinze Jr. Maybe like he sought out a sister to maybe get some like, you know, get over his grief a little bit and maybe like tell her what, you know, try to like get over what he did kind of thing by like reaching out to the sister. So I was like, I wonder if it was him that was actually Billy Blue, because it obviously sounded like a fake name. But also she assumes just by seeing the boat name too that he's the murderer, which I don't really get that connection either.
No, I don't think you would use the name of your boat as an alibi when you go meet, you know, because like the context you got that name for anyway, it ends up being a total red herring anyway, which is a fish joke and the way you use red herring. So you're welcome.
why would him showing up at the sister's house last summer, it's not like he killed the sister. Or whenever he showed up there, why would him showing up there and lying about being Billy Blue mean that he's the murderer? You know,
Well, I
like,
don't think. Are we to believe that he is the one who went and
well,
met with Anne Heche?
Yes. Yeah, he went over and like talked to her, I think to just like maybe talk about his brother, pretended that he knew him and maybe like try to get over his grief. You know what I mean? Like I want to talk to the family member and like maybe try and find some peace for what I did kind of thing. And that made sense to me that he could reach out maybe to that family, but he lied about who he was so that, you know, he wouldn't actually get in trouble.
None of this is explicitly talked about in the movie, though, right? These are all connections that you personally, Tanner, have made.
I mean, that he was the one that went and talked to her.
Or...
yeah. I mean, his name, it's Billy Blue, and he says I can explain. So it leads me to believe that he was the Billy Blue guy, but the Billy Blue guy doesn't necessarily mean he's the murderer. You know what I mean? That jumping in that conclusion doesn't make sense to me. Like that it would be this Billy Blue character. Anyway, okay, I don't know.
Regardless, his boat is named Billy Blue.
It's all confusing, red herring bullshit.
It's all confusing, but she jumps to the conclusion that he must be the killer. So she runs away, tries to jump a fence. It's locked. She turns. She runs past him. And a stranger jumps out of the shadows to her rescue and knocks over Freddie Prinze Jr. Clotheslines him. And she asks this stranger for help. And he says, go, there's a phone on my boat. He sends her to this other boat at the marina. Because again, Freddie Prinze Jr. is a fisherman. Yeah.
She immediately trusts a stranger after everything that's going on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Over her old boyfriend.
Yeah. Which was a huge mistake, Tanner, because as soon as she gets on board, she notices a slicker and a hat.
Yep. And he gets on the boat and says, you in some sort of trouble, child? Yes, I'm in trouble. Shame, being it's the 4th of July and all. Like, oh, it's
4th of July trouble's the worst kind of trouble.
Oh, it's a shame. You should really be out there enjoying the 4th. Too bad you're in trouble.
The worst type.
Yeah, so he like basically reveals himself. No more slicker the rest of the movie. It's this old dad here is the killer.
Yep. This is the dad of the girl who died the year before they hit the guy with the car. Did that make sense?
That is actually makes more sense than anything in this movie. But yes.
There were a couple other clues in the boat. There were some newspaper clippings about her and her friends that were like taped up. So it was pretty clear that this guy had been like stalking them. And so it's not, she kind of senses that this is actually the killer. But he ends up chasing her around the boat with the fish hook. And like Tanner said, no more slicker, no more hat. It's just this guy chasing her. And
a funny little moment where she gets a flare gun and loads up the flare gun and like points it at him, and then he just nudges the boat forward, and the flare gun comically just like flies way out of her hand into the ocean. It was her one chance of escaping.
Yeah. Also, meanwhile, Freddie Prinze Jr. had swam out to the boat, which
he drives a boat. He drives another boat out there.
Oh, he drives another boat out. Okay, yeah. The bad guy like took off from the harbor, and they're out like in the sea now. And he's like stalking her around the boat. She ends up in the ice room. What would you call that part of the boat?
I don't know. Is there an ice room on every boat where it's just like it's like crushed ice all throughout, like a massive room with just a bunch of crushed ice?
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that somebody went to Safeway and then walked around like the fish section and then made a movie out of the stuff that they saw. You know, there were crabs. There's a fish room on the boat.
They bought some fish sticks and they're like, "Oh, what if this guy was the killer, the Gorton's fisherman?"
Yeah, we'll give him a hook like a fisherman has. That's his weapon.
Yeah, every fisherman has a giant hand hook to move ice blocks. Hook.
Yeah, because they use ice so much.
I mean, I guess you do have to keep your fish cold.
You do. It would spoil certainly if you're out on the ocean for a couple of days. But is there a room like that under the boat?
I don't know. She opens up like a side window that's like with her shirt. She takes her shirt off or like her overshirt just to get some more JHL cleavage going on. But they open that up and it's like, yeah, like you said, all the crushed ice, and she's like slipping on the ice and like can't get out of it. It's very comical and pointless in the end. But then there's dead bodies in the ice too.
There are 2 dead bodies. Yeah. So the killer has not only been murdering these sexy, sexy teenagers, but he's been hiding them in this boat in the ice room. So there's that.
I saw that the ice was made of gelatin.
Really?
So they could comfortably move around inside. Yeah.
I love that. That makes my day.
Yeah, so there's more showdown stuff. Anything of note really that happens here?
No.
Oh, there's he's about to kill her, and
there's that.
He says Happy 4th of July, Julie, which another callback to the Highlander with the Merry Christmas when he kills the guy. It's a holiday-based pun. We had a survey question about it.
We even did.
Yeah.
He also says, when you leave a man for dead, make sure he's really dead.
I know all about accidents.
I think that guy is dead. Right? The guy they left for dead was dead.
No. Wait.
Is he dead?
You're talking about the one that they threw in the water?
Is David Egan still alive?
The guy they threw in the water is the dad.
What?
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm well, now you got me questioning it, but I was
thought the guy they threw in the water was David Egan.
That's what they thought, but no, the dad. Okay, so the night of the accident,
the
dad. Okay, the dad killed David Egan, who was shown at the beginning of the movie, right, drinking and contemplating suicide or whatever.
Yes.
The dad killed him and took that little locket or whatever, that little memento that spins.
Yes.
Because it belonged to his daughter. So he killed the guy. And then
tattoo.
After that, yes, there was something about a tattoo.
That
it was like,
my
brother doesn't have a tattoo.
The brother doesn't have the tattoo. Okay, that makes sense. So it was him that was.
It was the father that they hit, and that's why he was so mad. He's just so mad that they almost killed him that he went on this murderous rampage. Yeah.
Okay.
So it had nothing to do with any of these other people and murders or anything. It just was because, I mean, rightfully so. I'd be mad if somebody almost killed me and left me for dead.
Yeah.
I'd probably go to the police though. But yeah, I don't know. So there's the showdown here. I love that.
That really helps. Thank you. I understand that now. That connects.
I love talking this shit out.
Dude, I need it sometimes.
It's so good.
Yeah. Okay.
So he gets hit. There's a Home Alone style finishing move here, right? Where
the most laughably, again, this is supposed to be a scary movie, and this is just pure comedy. The way that this movie ends, he has the hook, the ice hook up in the air. He's ready to bring it down and kill Jennifer Love Hewitt. I think I did that right. Okay, Jennifer Love Hewitt. And while he's doing that, Freddie Prinze Jr. hits something that makes the rope go, and he gets his hand and hook ripped off.
Yeah, he hits him in the face with a hook too. First, did you ever say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then he he just like puts his hand up again after that, maybe to like slash, and he randomly gets caught in the rope that pulls his hand up.
Yeah. Rips off his hand, and he gets thrown overboard into the ocean. And so he's been neutralized.
Very cartoony sequence of events here.
Yeah. And in the sequels he's going to have like a Captain Hook.
Oh yeah, no, it's the same guy. He's obviously not dead. It's like the most obvious
so obvious
sequel. Yeah.
Yeah.
The name of his boat you see here is Sweet Susie. I just some good boat names in this movie. Another
Billy
milking the franchise.
Sweet Susie. Yeah.
Another milking the franchise staple. Boat names.
Name a boat. Yeah. So the movie's almost over. There's like a credit sequence where Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Just they're kind of they're talking about how they're at the docks and the police are there and they find the hand and they're like, well, I guess that's it. It's over. And they're kind of talking to each other, the two survivors, Freddie Prinze and JLH. They say like we never actually killed anyone, so now we can rest easily. Like they're satisfied the fact that guy hadn't actually died, but they still took the action to like bury this body or like throw it overboard. And just because he wasn't dead, they're like, well, I guess we're all good then. We don't have to be upset anymore. No more guilt.
Yeah.
And all these people died. Their best friends
stalking us to murder us, but we're good now.
And because of those actions, like 5 people got killed at least, right? Like 2 of their best friends, Max and like the sister of her best friend got murdered. But because of all this, because they didn't actually kill that guy, they're not responsible for this, even though their actions caused it. Anyways. And they're still in love. You're saying then it cuts to the credits?
Well, there's like a scene right before the credits.
Yes.
I feel like if this movie came out today, this would have been a post-credit sequence.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Another 1 year later.
Yes. And JLH is taking a shower. She's having a funny, flirty little chat on the phone. Everything's good. And the smoke, the steam. She leaves all the showers on in this shower. There's like 4 or 5 of them.
She gets a letter though. Yeah.
Well, the letter isn't like a letter.
Well, you think it is. You think she's like, oh fuck, like I got another letter.
Yes, that's true. It is set
like,
up to that.
They throw you off and like, oh shit, the killer's back, but it's just an invitation to a pool party. So it's
another red,
or is
another
it?
MacGuffin? Yeah.
Yeah. What happens in that steam room?
Oh well, it's so steamy. Somebody had written on this glass door, "I still know," and then something jumps through the glass, huge glass shattering moment, and then it cuts to black, and that's the end of the movie. So, sets up for a sequel in all sorts of ways.
They had. I feel like they had the sequel just like already being made.
Yeah.
Like we already know this movie's going to be a hit. It's cheap. Let's make the sequel. We got hot people in it.
Yeah.
Let's just set it up. They even had the title already. I still know.
And I am so excited to talk about the titles of these movies as we get deeper into the franchise, because that alone is milk. Like they're milking this franchise for everything it's worth, just in how they named the movies. So we'll get to that as we go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, he jumps right at her. The sequel has to start from that very second, right? I mean, you can't start it any other way, because that's the killer. He's there.
I hope it's like Freddie Prinze Jr. with flowers. Like it's another jump scare that they use that they just ignore in the second movie or something.
Gotcha.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's actually Ryan Felipe, and he wasn't dead. He's just
he wasn't dead all along. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the movie. Chris, what did you think of I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Honestly, I kind of liked it. I thought it was overall pretty fun. I'd give it probably like a 7 out of 10. A lot of the connective tissue was very confusing for me. And in a lot of ways, this is a less scary, less fun version of Scream. Like I would just rather go watch Scream. But I love Scream. This movie was fun. It had a lot of momentum. It was pretty stupid a lot of the time, but like I said, I think it was fun. It was a fun, sexy kids slasher movie.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. It definitely was riding on the coattails. It was written by the same guy as Scream, Kevin Williamson. But
he wrote Scream?
Yeah, so he wrote this before Scream but couldn't sell it, and then Scream was such a big hit they just dug down on everything this guy ever did, pretty much.
Okay, gotcha.
They bought up all his scripts and they put this immediately into the theaters. Like, I mean, it came out only 1 year after Scream, So they rushed it, quite a
Yeah.
bit.
And you can
definitely
feel that. You can feel that. This
It's
movie
not
is not well put together.
Yeah, it's not really good like Scream is good, but it's entertaining for what it is. It's I don't know. I would probably give it more of a 5 out of 10. That doesn't mean like my scale is more like, I mean, I will watch a 5 out of 10 movie. That's fine. I was entertained. So, but obviously the plot points are bad and like, I don't need to watch it again,
No. Yeah. I think also I inflated the grade a little bit just because of how bad the movie we watched last week was. Like this movie felt like a triumph compared
to The Source. Yeah, everything's a 10 out of 10 after that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought it was fun enough. Yeah, the connective tissue, and when you stop and think about a lot of the stuff that's happening, it's even more confusing. Like I just now figured out who the person was that they hit with the car.
Yeah,
as we were talking, and I mean it's a little convoluted, and the bad guy isn't that scary either at any point in this movie because they don't figure out if he's a slasher or if he's trying to get them in trouble. Like it's just kind of unclear.
But,
what are you going to do?
Like we talked about, what we're supposed to be afraid of is very unclear throughout this whole movie, besides a man in a fishing outfit. Yeah, overall it was mediocre. I can see why there's a sequel. It did very well. So it $17 million budget. It made $125 million worldwide. So they pumped out a sequel as quickly as possible. But it does feel like a movie that's just riding on the coattails of some actual bigger success,
Yes.
And maybe the screenwriter had a bit better version to begin with and they just kind of rushed it. I don't know. But yeah. I don't know. What else?
Yeah.
Do you think it deserves another sequel?
Oh, without a doubt.
It kind of had it built in. I mean, there's no way it couldn't.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. And like, I didn't find the fisherman with the hook to be super scary, but like they picked a guy, they picked a villain, a slasher. And I think overall the movie was fun enough for a sequel. I will say, should I save my milk? Because I read the first few chapters of the book, and I'm going to try and finish that as we're working through these movies.
No, let's talk a little bit about what you've had so far, and because I don't have anything. So yeah, what do you got?
Cool. Yeah. So here's the milk portion of this show. We like to talk about like other stuff with the IP, and this movie is based on a book from 1973. So I'm working my way through that book. I'm about 3 chapters in, and a couple changes that I've noticed. It's the book is fine. It's not. I think Jaws was better written than this book was. It's kind of a pulpy, I'm assuming murder story, but there haven't been any murders yet. But it's set, all these kids are in high school in the book, and they're like early college age in the movie. And the biggest difference that I wish the movie had stuck to is they haven't revealed what happened last summer yet. And so the first few chapters, she gets her acceptance letter to college. And next to that acceptance letter is the "I know what you did last summer" note. And so she freaks out, but they don't explain why. And I think that, like, I don't know. I think like this movie would have been better if that was a little bit more of a mystery instead of them doing it like all right at the very beginning. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, I'm a couple chapters in. They've kind of gotten the gang together. Ray is like back in town, and Helen, which is Sarah Michelle Gellar, is like a beauty queen, and she won some rising star on the local news award, and so she's just like doing that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's following it sort of closely. There's no character Max. Obviously haven't found out who the killer is or met many of the other characters, but
so they haven't had the actual hit and kill somebody yet, or like
no, they haven't explained that at all. Yeah.
But it takes place after the event happened?
Yeah, it starts a year later. So it starts with the instigating event is her getting the letter that says, "I know what you did last summer."
Gotcha.
And then she freaks out, and you are kind of like following her as she gets her friends together. Yeah,
You
I do
don't
too. I think it's
know at all what happened last summer. Yeah.
yeah, and it makes the title like what did happen last. Like that's the mystery that's central right now. And I
I
think
like
it makes
that.
our
Yeah.
story. Yeah. So
And I know
um
there's a TV show that came out on Amazon like in 2019, and
okay.
I think it follows closely to the book rather than the movie. So I don't know. I don't even know if
Okay.
it's a slasher necessarily. That one might be more of a facing your consequences type thing. Maybe the book and that. We'll see.
It might, and yeah, it was originally written in '73, right? And so I don't know
Yeah.
that
Crazy.
feels like it might even be before most of the the Halloween and the
Yeah.
the Freddy movies too.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Right around
so
that
yeah,
time
it
maybe.
might be a
Right
different vibe.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's see. Real quick, I wanted to see. Do you have any beef with this movie? What is your franchise? What is your MVP of the movie? What worked? What didn't for you? Specific.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about it. I wish the movie was scarier. I don't think it's scary enough. Um, and like a lot of the plot is kind of convoluted and and unnecessarily so. Like they could have cleaned this up pretty easily in a lot of different ways. Um, MVP. I mean, it's fun watching this like '90s time capsule. So I'm going to give it to the casting director. I just love having Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Brian Philippi, like all these people in one place. I think it's a fun little time capsule of a movie.
Nice.
Even though it doesn't work as well as Scream does, because that's just a better movie. But I don't know. What did you think? What
Yeah.
was your MVP or beef or what were your final thoughts?
Yeah. Just I think my beef would probably have to be with. I mean, just the plotting, just the overall jumping to conclusions and the way people acted to get the plot going. You know what I mean? The plot
Yes.
devices used to make the jumps and logic just didn't make any sense to me. So stuff like that made me feel like it was kind of dumb and on the lower end of stuff, even
Yeah.
though I did like the cast and the general just like fun teenage slasher film vibes of it.
Mhm.
I'd say it's like above average in that genre, but like still kind of
Yeah.
middling.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall fun.
It
The
is not
sequel,
timeless.
not timeless. Yeah, that Scream
Yeah.
is timeless, right?
I think so too. Yes.
But
And this
this is
is of
not.
the time. This
It's
is
a
a
time
time
capsule.
capsule.
Good call.
Yeah. And it's not good enough to transcend the time that it came
Ooh,
from.
there's a question we could ask every series. Is it timeless or is it a time capsule?
Ooh,
That.
there you go. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I would want to ask. I do want to ask as well. Where do you think the sequel should go? Like, what do you think? Getting a little feedback, but where do you think the sequel should go from here? Or
Well, I
future
mean,
sequels?
it seems like they already have the slasher, and he's going to have a hook in the next movie because he lost his hand, and he's probably out for revenge against Freddie Prinze Jr. and against Jennifer Love Hewitt. That would be my guess, right? It set that up pretty clearly, and I would imagine it would happen on the 4th of July because this franchise in particular seems very tied to this idea of anniversaries.
Yeah, I'm imagining a very by the numbers kind of sequel. It's just like kind of
Yes,
the same thing. They're being hunted again. I don't. Maybe they'll do something different. Maybe it'll be a different killer altogether. Who knows?
that would be fun. I think I would like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, have you seen either of the sequels to this, or are you going in blind with me on
I don't
this?
think I ever saw the sequel, and I definitely like the direct sequel has the two main leads that survived, and I know the
Okay.
third one is like a direct to video. Nobody from the originals involved. That's going to be a real stinker. I have a feeling.
I can't wait. I can't
But
wait.
yeah, I think I'd like to see if they're going to make this again, which I did hear they're going to make a Scream 6 level legacy movie with the original cast. The original two people are going to come back for a new sequel.
Okay.
It was announced this year. So I mean that could be fun. Maybe I don't know if it holds up as well as Scream. We'll see. But I think it'd be fun to see this plot, but dealing with the dramatic side of it, and not a horror movie necessarily, but maybe like a thriller, or like, they have to kill to keep people from talking about what happened. You know what I mean? Like they get deeper and deeper into covering up what they did. Kind of.
Yeah, they kind of let the main characters off, like, not to use this pun, but they let them off the hook a bunch of times throughout this movie, like by killing Max, the Johnny Galecki character, before he could say what he saw, or they even had to confront the fact that he found them at the scene of the murder. Like, that let them off the hook. And then it turns out that the person they hit with the car was actually a murderer. Also kind of like lets them off, like there's no moral. They get to have killed a guy, sort of, and also keep the moral high ground, which is kind of top out.
They're having their cake and eating it too.
Exactly. Yeah. You said that much more succinctly than I did.
I don't even know if it made sense, but it sounded right.
Yeah. And I love cake, so solid.
I'm eating cake right now, so and having it too. All right, well, I know what you did last summer. I hope you enjoyed listening to us, and I really hope you take the survey and follow along. And then we will read your answers to this episode's survey next week when we watch I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
I remain knowing what you did last summer. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take our survey. And we'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you then. Moo.
Moo.